Welcome to another edition of Down the Road with me, Joel Heitkamp. We got a lot of things lined up for you today. Dr. Larry Jacobson's going to join us in a little bit. He's from the University of Minnesota, and Dr. Jacobson is, well, he's only written, 16 books, but he's an expert when it comes to politics, when it comes to presidential races. So we'll get a chance to visit with him today. Dr. Shelley Lenz, and her doctorate is in veterinary medicine. She's going to join us. She's a candidate for governor. And Sean Wenko is going to join us today. You've got to meet Sean. He's the economic development head in Williams County in Fort Williston, and just doing amazing work in the heart and soul of the oil patch there. But this is a real treat for me. I watched his work as a football coach. I watched his work at Great Plains. I watched his work at Microsoft. But the reason that we asked him on today is because of his work on the State Higher Education Board, and that's Don Morton. Don, good to have you on.
Nice to be with you, Joel.
So there isn't too much that you haven't done. I just described all that, but somewhere along the line, somebody talked you into going on to the Board of Higher Education. Did you ever see yourself in that role, having worked in higher ed for years?
No, I didn't. As a football coach, you really don't get involved with the governance very much. But Jack nominated me, and when the governor nominates you, you don't say no.
There weren't many of us that could say no to Jack Dalrymple. Yeah, he was one of those decent guys that when I was in the legislature for those 14 years, Jack Dalrymple he came around seldom, but when he came around, it mattered. And my guess is that's what happened to you as well, Don.
Yes. We're very fortunate to have people like him, and I think he's enjoying retirement. And I see him on the golf course more than I've ever seen him.
That's good. I want to talk to you, if I can, about the measures, and in this particular case, Measure 1. Measure 1 deals with the Board of Higher Education. It expands the board. It changes the terms. It does a lot to change where you served on the State Board of Higher Education. So the obvious question is, why? How do you sit on all this as somebody who served on that board?
Well, I think I'm against Measure 1. I voted yesterday, and I voted no on Measure 1 and Measure 2. It's got to be. I think the size right now is fine, but I really am supportive of. I was fortunate to serve on Governor Burgum's task force, and we spent a whole year looking at governance and talking to a lot of experts around the country. And I like the idea of the two research universities having one board, not a board each, but one board that would govern the two research universities. Because collaboration, if we can collaborate, we have so much more power. And then one board for the 5 regional schools and one board for the two-year schools, because they all have such different missions. And a board that then you could specialize. Right now, when we go to board meeting, if we're it's hard to have the strategic discussion, because as you're talking about Minot State College, the other presidents, it's not relevant to them as you're taught. And so we very seldom, our board meetings right now are very bureaucratic. There's a lot of policy. You got to have reading 1, reading 2, and stuff. And I just think if you look at the private sector has a board that is focused on their one company. And that's where you can go deep, you can understand it, you can add value, and that's what I'd like to see, but I don't know where that stands.
A lot of times, and I watched this through the years, even before I got into the legislature, I noticed that governors would pick people by geographic areas, so they did some of what you just described. For example, the North Dakota State College of Science, we seem to always have a representative from that area. And then you'd look at NDSU or UND, the two big research institutes, and there always seemed to be a couple of there. A couple of individuals that you'd look at and say, they know it, they get it, they're on that campus a lot. And somewhere along the way, we went away from that. And I don't know why, and I don't know if I was part of that problem. If I was, because in the legislature, I served on the committee that, you know, would give a recommendation or whether or not we would approve a board member. And so we would look at individuals that at times we thought didn't have a horse in the race. And looking back on it, Don, I'm not sure whether we got that right or not. I'm curious what you think about that.
Well, you take the original mission of each of the 2-year schools, the 4-year regional schools, and research. That original for the 4-year schools of Minot States, the Dixon States, it was teaching. We still need teachers. For the 2-year schools is workforce. We need workforce. And for the research schools, it was so. The original mission is still important. It's still needed. We just, if we could take State College of Science, I mean, they are having such an impact on workforce. And as you look down the road as a state, we are behind. We've got to embrace work-based learning. We've got to embrace that integration with the private sector. The private sector has to be part of the higher ed too, because work-based learning is the future. We've got to do a better job of educating young people when it comes to careers. Not everybody should be going to a 4-year school. Not everybody should be going to a research school. The 2-year schools just have some great programs in great jobs. But we've got to get the private sector really engaged in. If each segment had their own board, you could get the right private sector people engaged. You'd get some alumni that want to come back and contribute. And I think it could be a very effective system. But work-based learning, experiential learning is the key to the future. And if we don't embrace that, we're going to get further behind as a state.
You know, one of the things that I was quite passionate about was because you said it very well. If you start at this institution and you work your way to this other institution, it's a way of being ready for the workforce one way or another. And one of the things that I pushed really hard for was for those credits to make it, for those to transfer. Grade us on that. How are we doing when it comes to that?
I think we're doing very well. I think the synergies are very well. It's easy to transfer, and we've really streamlined it so the credits do transfer. So what you started, what you did, is being carried out, and it's being carried out very well.
You know, and you mentioned the State College of Science. They partner with NDSU, which I don't know that you could get a better partnership, but there are students out there, and you know this, Don, but there are students out there that just aren't built to be in a classroom of a couple hundred people. And if they can start out in that classroom of 20 with more of a hands-on, they have a way better chance of having an NDSU or a UN degree on the wall later on. And I think we've seen some success in that area.
Yeah, and it's to the 4-year school advantage to be open to that because they need the enrollment. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Should we gauge the success of our institutions? Let's look at the 4-year schools. NDSU, the school that you coached at for years, and when your name is mentioned, it's synonymous with NDSU. That institution, totally was graded by how many butts it puts in the seats. Should it be? Should we say, okay, if you've got 15,500 versus 15,300, you're doing a better job?
The measure that really works is what percentage of your students are graduating? What percentage are graduating in 4 years? What percentage in 5 years? What is your graduation rate? And then are you meeting the workforce needs of the area, of the community, of the state, of the region? And that's the critical thing. Workforce is the name of the game, and whether it's a 2-year school or 4-year school, but workforce is important.
So one of the things that also was of concern to the board and to the governing bodies that bring the money to it, whether it be the legislature or people like Jack Dalrymple, was always how long it took them to get through. Now, if they change majors, that's something that takes everything off the table. That's a choice they made. It's going to take longer. Totally understand that. But if they don't have access to the class they need to get through in 4 years, then it would seem to me that we in North Dakota are at a competitive disadvantage where other institutions, if you look across the border into Minnesota, MSUM says we guarantee we'll get you out in 4 years. And so I'm curious what you think about that.
Well, I think it's very important that we recruit the state of North Dakota very well for our North Dakota colleges, and we do. But we also can be very appealing to out-of-state, and out-of-state students help our numbers, and it allows us, particularly at our research universities, to have some really specialized science classes, biology classes, chemistry classes that we just couldn't have if we didn't have the numbers. And so we give the campus presidents, they have the latitude to set out-of-state tuition. I would like to see them copy the Microsoft business model. Microsoft is all based on volume. Yeah. The more volume you have, the more profit you can have. Yep. And we could lower the tuition and attract more people, attract more out-of-state people. And particularly, we're in a state that is a rural state. Anytime we can attract people to our state, that's a plus. But we have some legislators that want to, it comes up every year, they want to eliminate out-of-state recruiting, but they don't realize those out-of-state kids, we didn't pay for their K-12. Yeah. Another state paid for their K-12.
I totally agree. If you look at what we talked about today, you're looking at a success, and a success when it comes to certain things, and that was all done under the current board structure. So I think it's safe to say why you and I both are going to vote no, and you already did, and why I'm going to vote no on Measure 1. Thanks, Don. I appreciate it. Yeah. When we come back, we're going to get a chance to visit with Dr. Larry Jacobs with the University of Minnesota. Let's talk a little politics and where it goes right after this.
As the mayor of Bismarck, I invite you to join together today and stand united in the fight to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Case counts are steadily on the rise in the Bismarck-Mandan metro area, so please do your part. Protect yourself and others by wearing a mask when you're not at home. During the pandemic response, scientists have determined wearing a mask is a benefit to you and to those around you. This help keeps others from getting sick and may lessen the severity of illness if you are infected with COVID-19. We're all in this together. So let's get kids back to school, preserve our local economy, and keep our community strong. Let's show everyone how we come together to keep Bismarck the safe, resilient community we know and love. For more information, visit health.nd.gov/coronavirus. That's health.nd.gov/coronavirus.
Beck Communications is honored to be recently recognized with 3 Broadband Now awards. Beck Communications Cooperative was awarded in the categories of Top Internet Speeds Nationwide, Top 3 Fastest Internet Providers in North Dakota, and North Dakota's #1 fastest fiber provider. It's only through the support of our members and customers that Beck Fiber delivers award-winning speeds and service. Thank you, Beck Communications Cooperative members and customers, for your years of continued support.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at accordsleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
Is your business phone system outdated and expensive to maintain? Most large VoIP companies leave you on hold or struggling through online support and training for your employees. With Beck Connect, you always have fast, friendly, local support. Familiar faces with the know-how to keep you connected. Take advantage of the newest technology in voice calling, video conferencing, and virtual meeting rooms. Beck Connect gives you all the features you need with no upfront investment and no obsolete hardware or software ever again. Simplify your communications. Choose local. Choose Beck Connect.
Welcome back to Down the Road. Okay, wait till you hear this resume. We've got Dr. Larry Jacobs with us. He's with the University of Minnesota. He's a professor there. Dr. Jacobs is the director for the Center of the Study of Politics and Governance at the University of Minnesota. Now, here's the thing that really is intimidating to me. He's taken the time in his life to write 16 books that people want to read. And so that's pretty impressive as well. Dr. Jacobs, welcome to Down the Road.
Thank you very much. That's a very kind introduction.
Let's talk a little bit about the politics of now. We're 5 days out from this presidential election. The state that you're a professor in, where you're teaching those young minds, is one of the states that the president and the vice president and the have both visited. Is Minnesota really in play?
You know, I would say that it's in play. And actually, if you look at the polling averages, it's down about 40% over the last month. So I think that's a sign I'm sure the president and his team are looking at. On the other hand, the president is still behind by about 5 to 7 points, depending on which average of polls you're looking at. That's a lot, and it's beyond, the margin of error. So I think he's got a challenge. The main problem in Minnesota for the president right now, as elsewhere, is that the coronavirus is a #1 story in the paper. If you look at the Star Tribune today, the top 2 stories are about the surge in COVID in Minnesota, the hospitals, the teachers being overwhelmed. It's just the worst issue for the president in these last few days as the undecideds make up their mind.
If you were in your classroom and one of those students stood up and said, "Why in the world would I believe in polling? Look what happened in 2016. Everybody said that Hillary Clinton was going to win. You saw 99% by some people's, they were almost guaranteeing that Hillary Clinton was going to win. What would you say to that student when they say, why in the world would I believe in polling?
Well, first off, I think it was a big mistake by, places like 538 or the New York Times in using these probability models that led people to believe it was a sure thing. It was never a sure thing. It's not a sure thing now. What I would say is, and I tried to say this, that Biden has got a much better chance. The president has a chance. It's just like a 1 out of 10 chance. Whereas for Biden, it's more like 8 or 9 out of 10. It's now in terms of polling, if you go back to 2016, the polls were almost exactly right in terms of the national number in showing Hillary Clinton would win with about 3 million more votes. And they were right in most states. They were wrong, though, in some key states like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, where there was a lot of change. And, we're all studying that, and I think there's a great deal of caution. There's been some real changes in how polls are done. So, no, I would not consider this in the bag for Biden, but I do think that the odds heavily favor Biden.
See, you just nailed it. I've been saying that on my radio show. I'm going to say it right here on Down the Road, that the polling in 2016 was right, if you look at it. Because, she won by 3 million votes, but she didn't win because we have this thing called the Electoral College. So then when you look at that and you look at the margin of error, every one of those 3 key states was well within the margin of error. And so for that student that stands and questions polling, if you look at it currently, and you look at the polling numbers in Michigan and you look at them in Minnesota, you'd have to look at them the same way in Georgia, in Texas, and Iowa. And, there's been a lot of question about why the vice president is campaigning in Georgia. If you were the head of his campaign, would you have put him on a plane and sent him to Georgia?
Well, it's like sports. There's a lot of head faking. And this is kind of like you're going to run a play right up the middle. Instead, you throw it out to the flat and let your receiver go to work. And so by sending him to Georgia, which is an absolute must-win state for Donald Trump, and there's two very important U.S. Senate races there, that is alarm bells going off in Trump headquarters and the U.S. Senate Republican Reelection Committee. They've got to put more resources in. And so Biden is now playing with a master strategy to win the presidency, which he thinks he's likely to win, but also to win the majority in the U.S. Senate, because he will not get anything done unless he does that. We're also going to see him on Thursday in Iowa. And, you know, maybe he wins Iowa. It's kind of a toss-up. But the main reason, I think, is that there's a close U.S. Senate race there with a Democrat maybe a smidgen ahead. So Biden is playing the big game here. One other thing, there was a poll that came out early this week in Wisconsin, which showed Biden up by 17 points. Now that is like the outlier of outliers, but it was done by a very reputable group, Washington Post, ABC News, and there were a lot of people immediately dismissed it. I'm not so sure. I don't think Biden's going to win by 17 points, but I do think the president's campaigning on saying that the coronavirus is disappearing or around the bend and all that stuff, for people who are like in the real world and not like fixed on this guy, that's not what they're seeing with their own eyeballs. Yeah. It's not what they're reading on the front page of the papers. And so it's possible that in this last 10 days running up to the election, that small but critical number, 7, 8, maybe 10% who are undecided, they're looking at that guy's thinking, it's not going to change. Yeah. I've got to vote for the challenger in order to get a handle on this thing. And so I think things are changing. I think they're playing in Biden's favor. And I think now Biden is now playing the board for the big win.
You know, and I know that we just have 1 minute remaining here, but I've got to ask you this, because you are such a student of this. Give me a prediction. If you had your last $10 in your pocket, the two questions I'm going to ask you is, who wins the presidency and who has the Senate, and who has the Senate roughly by how many numbers? I know that's a lot in 30 seconds, Professor, but what do you think?
No. I play poker. I'll tell you, I would take, odds like this, 8 or 9 out of 10. Yeah, I think Joe Biden wins. I think it's probably going to not be close. We may even know on election night if Florida goes for Biden, and they are counting their votes now privately. And if that happens, we are seeing the nationalization of our elections, meaning we're seeing waves. So if Biden wins north of 300, a lot of these close U.S. Senate races are going to move this direction. Maybe he picks up 52 Democrats in the Senate, which would be an extraordinary turnaround from January.
Dr. Jacobs, thank you, sir. This was fun. I hope we do it again. When we come back, Dr. Shelley Lenz, she's a candidate for governor in the great state of North Dakota. So stick around right here on Down the Road.
I just went in for a regular mammogram, and I found out that I had a little tumor.
Through the exam and the biopsy, it was determined that I had cancer.
I got a call from one of my doctors that I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
After 5 years, they found a local reoccurrence.
The first thing you hear when you're told you have a cancer, it's a little daunting because you don't know where to go with it.
Since 1999, in a partnership between CHI St. Alexius Health and Sanford Health Bismarck, the Bismarck Cancer Center has provided the most advanced radiation therapies and holistic support services for cancer patients and their loved ones for 20 years.
I've been at the Bismarck Cancer Center since it started. I actually was in the basement of Med Center 1 before, when we had old machines and old equipment. And thankfully, the two hospitals at the time, St. Alexius and Med Center 1, joined forces to create the Bismarck Cancer Center.
I walk in the door, I get nothing but hugs, and I was marveled at them. I mean, I thought it was the best place in the world.
The staff is unbelievably compassionate, and they explain everything to you.
Everybody's genuinely concerned about your well-being, and the level of care is just top-notch. The Cancer Center just does such an amazing job of helping people.
To me and my family, the Cancer Center means life. It's given me the ability to live out my life with my family, my wife, my children, my grandchildren.
Because of them, I'm 2 years out, get to move on with my life, make a difference now for other people.
I would recommend this center because the minute you walk through that door, they've got your back.
This center means so much to me and to the people that are in this building, and we just want to keep giving it back to the community and providing for them what they need.
I'm Katie. I've been cancer-free for 2 years.
I'm Steve, and I've been cancer-free for 4 years.
I've been cancer-free for 10 years.
10 years.
11 years.
15 years.
My name is Lainey, and I've been cancer-free for 18 years.
Bismarck Cancer Center, your partner against cancer for 20 years.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Welcome back to Down the Road. When I think of energy, okay, a little background. I was a page at a Democratic convention as probably, a seventh grader. So I've been around politics a long time. I've known a lot of people in politics. I've introduced presidents. I've spoke between them. When I think of energy, I'm not sure that I've seen anyone with more than Dr. Shelley Lenz. She's running for governor in the great state of North Dakota. Dr. Lenz, good to have you here on Down the Road.
Good to be here. Thanks for being here, and thanks for those kind words.
Well, you have. I mean, you're like this bundle of optimism, and I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it every day. Has it been fun to run?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Every day has been wonderful and very inspirational. I feel like it hasn't felt political at all. It just feels like I'm solving this big problem, but it's all there. We can all solve it. Just needs to go in the right direction. And so it's pretty inspirational, and I'm pretty excited. And of course, I'm driving most of the time, and you know how beautiful our state is, and that's really nice. So yeah, every single day has been uplifting.
You're running against an incumbent, and that's never easy. I get it. And also, you're running against a man that's got millions and millions and millions of dollars in his pocket. And you're running at the same time during a pandemic. So this is a whole different race. I mean, it's a whole different race. Let's get to it. Grade him. Grade the man that you're running against in Doug Burgum and what he's done when it comes to this pandemic.
Oh, F. Yeah, for sure. He has an F. So a lot of the things I was running against, why I threw my hat in the ring even before COVID was because he just wasn't getting the job done. He really didn't see, and remember, I voted for him. So he wasn't getting the job done. And we saw a lot of those fragilities out here in the rural world. You often do. And now you could just see on a global dramatic way what poor leadership will do when you're leading not with people first, but with whatever he's leading with first. So just not working. And so for me, it's been a little bit easier just because I'm a scientist, I have a PhD, and then I also have a DVM. And so the disease itself is something that I don't have to study that much on. So it's easier for me to answer that so I can start doing all the other stuff.
North Dakota has got the attention of the nation, and it's got the attention in a bad way. It's been used as an example of what not to do, or what, basically how not to ignore the pandemic. I mean, there's a lot of people that are wondering why we're so cavalier about this. Dr. Birx came to Bismarck. I mean, this is one of the leading experts. She stands at the podium with the President of the United States a lot. She's disagreed with him a lot because she wants people to wear masks. She wants people to socially distance. And when she came to North Dakota, she said that of all the towns she's been to, Bismarck has been the worst and she's standing next to the man that you're running against at that time. And so, you know, many of the things that you've been critical for, to me, were justified that day. And when you heard that, I'm curious what your thoughts were about it.
Well, I mean, it was predictable and preventable, and we had the advantage of time as the disease rolled across, and we also had the advantage of, you know, distance in a lot of our towns. So this is science, and Mother Nature will always humble you. It always will. And I saw this back in March 25th when I closed my clinic, when I saw what was happening and how it was being handled. And there's some data kind of maneuvering that was maybe not right. But now it's so glaring that everybody can see it. You don't have to be a scientist to see it. I mean, the number of lost North Dakotans, the hospital capacity, the positivity rate, even when you're doing it in a way that you're trying to make it look as best as possible. So it's really obvious it was obvious to the scientists and the medically trained back in March. Now it's just very obvious. And Dr. Birx, she's very well composed, and I'm glad she came here and stood beside him and said, this isn't good. So it's good.
So, Dr. Lenz, when you look at Governor Burgum and the attitude that he's taking, it really mirrors, you know, what's happened in South Dakota, in my personal opinion. The cities have kind of led the charge now. You've got Fargo, you've got Grand Forks, you've got Bismarck, albeit, you know, controversially. Bismarck 3-2, kicking, dragging, screaming, has a mask mandate as well. Minot has a mask mandate. The governor has said this needs to be handled at a local level. Do you agree that it needs to be handled at a local level like that?
Well, you can't set the local level adrift. They don't have the resources or the tools. You're asking for them to bear all the responsibility without the accurate information and the tools to do something about it. And so that's, you know, remember, this is I always call it, it's a foreign invader. It's just invisible. So you would never, if there were humans that were coming to invade and say, hey, Dickinson, why don't you take care of that? We'll just tell you when they're coming, you know, and it just doesn't make sense. So our state in South Dakota mirrors the very poor national response, where that it should have been a national response, but instead they pit governor against governor. And then what our governor chose to do was to pit city against city, and basically not be the bad guy in making unpopular decisions that people are going to resist. And I think that was very, very, not only is that poor leadership, that's just, I don't know, it's not very gentlemanly, I guess.
So what have you done? If you had the keys, if you're sitting in the Capitol and you're walking into the governor's office every day and all of this hit, what would have you done?
I would have done what I did starting March 25th. I followed the science. I closed my business. I made sure my employees were employed and had health insurance, and started explaining to them regularly what's going on and what's going to happen. And I started framing it in the time period that it should have been framed in, which is like about every 3 months, we're going to reevaluate what our plan is. And now, you know, because it's been so poorly handled, we're in this for a few years probably. So, and then also what I did is when I realized how poorly it was being handled and how the information on the dashboard was not accurate, I actually started to come up with my own plan. So I reached out to some of the world-renowned epidemiologists and strategists. These are the guys that advise countries and intelligence agencies and states. And so I started working with some of them to develop a plan for North Dakota, right? Because it's not just a rule or not like a mask mandate or not. It's like you need a structure to deal with basically it's almost like a military operation, but it's for a biological weapon. And so I came up with that, but of course that's not good enough, because we have very unique things here in North Dakota. We have certain geography, we have certain culture, we have certain economic resources. And so I brought that plan back and I talked to economic developers, legislators, teachers, parents, tribal members, health officials, tweaked it for North Dakota. And then I brought it back to some of my national experts and international experts. I said, does it still work? You know, and they said, Dr. Shelley, or I think they call me Dr. Lenz. They say, Dr. Lenz, this will not only work for North Dakota, but this is a model to use for every state. Because regardless of who becomes president, all the governors need to be rowing in the right direction. Just like in our state, all our tribal members and mayors and county officials need to be rolling in the right direction. And that's what that plan does. So
I have another question for you. And I've only got a couple of minutes left, but I've got to ask this. The nation also got basically it drew the attention of the nation when we're sitting there and we're giving of that CARES money that the federal government sent to help North Dakotans, to put them into our small town nursing homes. And the governor gave $16 million of those dollars to the oil industry to frack. What did you think of that?
Well, it was a slap in the face. I mean, I'm out here in the western North Dakota, and I know it's our blood, sweat, tears, and lives that have gone into extracting those resources so we all can share. And it just shows a very blatant misunderstanding of what creates that resource, and that's the people, and that's the working families. I did not hear one person, and I'm traveling all through western North Dakota. These are oil workers. These are wives of oil workers. Some of them work for me. Not a single person said, boy, I wish we could spend some more money with the oil company. They were talking about childcare, paid family leave, health insurance, extension of unemployment benefits. And those are men and women in the oil industry. These are the working people. And that's where the money should have been going. It's like they don't even understand what keeps our community stable. But that's going to change because I'm going to help them understand as they're.
I told you.
We're happy to work with the oil companies. We're happy to share our resources, but it comes from the people.
I told you she was a bundle of energy and optimism. I've got a minute left. What are you going to do with this campaign? You only got about 5 days. Well, you only have 5 days left. What are you going to do? You've got 30 seconds to give me an answer.
I am going to continue like I started at the beginning, like I'm two votes away from winning, and I'm going to be starting to travel around the state in my truck again and just bring the energy up. And on November 4th, I'm going to put my pants on and start getting back to work.
Either way, I don't doubt that whatsoever. Dr. Shelley, good to have you. Good to have you on.
Thank you.
She's every time I get a chance to talk to her, it's just an absolute blast. When we come back, Sean Wanko is going to join us. I've known Sean since I've started working out of Williston, and he's in economic development. And if you want to talk about somebody who's gotten the job done, well, in the Williston Basin, he has. Let's visit with him right after this.
Bismarck Central, 4800.
4800, go ahead.
Requesting social services on-call team.
Stand by. 4800 social services requesting additional information.
You can advise social services that we have an 18-month-old female who was in a residence with a mother, now being transported to medical care for overdose.
Trusting your digital life to faceless tech giants can be risky. Will they keep your family and business information truly safe from prying eyes? If you subscribe to local Beck Lightband internet service, you already have Beck Cloud Backup. Beck Cloud Backup is the safest, most private cloud storage for all your family memories, schoolwork, and business documents. Call 701-475-2361 to start using your free space on Beck Cloud Backup today.
You just might find the home of your dreams this weekend by watching the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes Sundays at 6 p.m. and Wednesdays at 7 on Beck, featuring properties from Bismarck, Mandan, Minot, and surrounding areas. The Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes presents desirable properties that are for sale, lets you meet your Alliance realtors, and provides critical insights into local happenings from community and business leaders. Join us this Sunday evening at 6 or Wednesday at 7 for the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes on Beck.
Today's households have more digital devices than ever before.
More links to family, business, education, and entertainment. Beck Communications spent over 10 years building North Dakota's fastest fiber optic internet service. Beck Lightband Internet, outpacing speeds in large cities nationwide. Lightband Internet handles all your digital needs without throttling your connection to the world. Beck Communications, valuable digital connections in rural North Dakota.
As the mayor of Bismarck, I invite you to join together to get our kids back to school, preserve our local economy, and keep Bismarck safe, strong, and resilient. A community task force has been launched to slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community. We're all in this together. Protect yourself and others by doing your part. Wear a mask when you're out and about, and slow the spread of COVID-19. For more information, visit health.nd.gov/coronavirus.
Good to have you back with us here on Down the Road. You meet people. When you live a life like I do, you meet people. I'm on Keys Radio in Williston, and so which means I get the opportunity to go to Williston a lot. This COVID thing has wrecked it. It's wrecked my traveling to the area and to the region. But you know what? It'll change, and I'll get back up there. And one of the individuals that I've met since I've been going to Williston is, well, let's just say he's somebody who gets the job done, and that's Sean Wanko with Williston Economic Development. Sean, good to have you on.
Hey, Joel, it's great to see you.
You know, talk about being dealt a hand. You know, I mean, I don't know how you've survived all this. It's like you couldn't get a breath of air. There were so many people coming at you saying, I need this, I need that, I need this, all during this oil boom. I mean, how did you do it?
Well, it was pretty chaotic, and it was like drinking from a fire hose. I think everybody's heard that phrase quite a bit. And you know, we spent 10 years of just massive growth, and then we spent several years of just really trying to get caught up.
So, okay, there's certain projects that we've absolutely got to talk about. But before we get to any of that, people, let's focus on the people, which you always have. There's a lot of talk about, okay, the oil industry, it's slowed down a little bit, and yet your school numbers continue to grow, which to me says that Williston's going to stay this size and that region's going to stay this size for a long time. That means people came and they're not leaving. How do you deal with that?
Well, and we've noticed that too. I mean, I say this a lot, that we weathered the storm much better than what it could have been. We're still in growth mode in the city of Williston, albeit it's probably more smaller business and a lot of projects that are just kind of getting going that never had the chance when we were going so crazy. And that's the same with the industry. I mean, yes, there's been some layoffs because of the slowdown in the industry, but you know, the industry will tell you their fear is that it's not the fact of when it's going to come back. It's going to come back, but their fear is how do they get these people back if they lay them off? So they've tried to keep everything at a minimum as best they could. But as you're well aware, I mean, 20's been a pretty wild year for going on.
Yeah. The partnerships that you formed to get all of this done, the people that you brought together through economic development to make sure that big projects got done. For example, tell them about the airport. Walk people through the process of what now is one of the premier airports, not just in North Dakota, but in the country. Walk them through that.
Well, you know, first hats off to the City of Williston commissioners. You know, they really pushed this project. And, you know, they did receive some pushback on it in the beginning, but then I think people realized what a need the project was. But, you know, we go back several years, and when we talk about partnerships, this is one thing that we worked through the office is we went into a public-private partnership with a group called Cardin Global out of Arizona. And they served two purposes. One was to be the owner's rep on the airport to make sure the project moved forward. The other was to look at the old airport because once we moved, that was going to leave about 800 acres of prime real estate development. And so we have been working with them for about 5 years on what this redevelopment might look like at the old airport.
So, you know, in terms of use, now that things have slowed down a little bit, is it getting used?
It's getting used. I would say it's not getting used to the point of where all the other airports are not getting used. I try to point this out a lot, that it's not a Williston issue when we're talking about airlines. We're talking about a global pandemic, and that affect everybody across the board. I think what you'll see, though, is that, you look at numbers at the Williston Airport and some of the percentages of growth, and they're still higher than some of the other airports that you see in the state when we're talking in terms of customers coming back.
I would fly personally at least 10 times a year, if not more. In 2020, since February, and I don't know that I flew before that. I was in a fish house a lot before that, but I haven't flown. I mean, there's no place to go that you're really, in a way, welcome to go. And so it had to be a tough time to open up an airport.
Well, it was. And again, I go back to the point that you look at when we opened up the airport a year ago in October, it was October 19, when we opened up XWA. The one thing you saw steady growth happening out there, where your two airlines, they were transitioning from the smaller planes to the larger planes, which was something that we had hoped would happen. That started to happen. And we were probably very close to announcing a third airline coming in, a budget airline. And then, of course, what is going on with COVID-19, that halted everything and really damaged the numbers that we're seeing. So it's caused everybody to pull back. Now, do I think it's going to come back? Absolutely. I think when we get on the other side, we open up the economy, the airport is going to be realized for the project that it is.
You're right. I mean, you are right. I've seen what's going on in the area, and I think the school is the best indicator. People just need to be freed up to go and to come in. So I know you're spot on right about that. Let me give you a scenario, Sean. Okay, Joel Heitkamp lives in Williston. He has a house that's worth $200K, and then this boom hits. And you and I both know there wasn't enough housing in Williston. Number one, how much is my house worth today? Number two, if I wanted to buy a house in Williston or move to a different house, could I? Is that available now?
Well, when you bought a house prior to the boom and you were in that house, you probably did very well if you sold it off during that period of crazy activity around 2012, 2013. Now, did values decline a bit when things slowed down? Absolutely. I wouldn't go into percentages to what I thought maybe the home market declined, but I can tell you it didn't decline much, and that was really a result of the demand. In fact, if you look at what's going on here, we still have a committee, even right now, we have a committee that is still trying to explore ways to get more single-family homes built out here. Because that demand is there. And that goes back to the shift in the demographics. We're one of the youngest communities now in the state with an average age of like 30 years old. And these are young families that are wanting to transition out of the apartment units, and they're wanting to buy homes, and they're wanting to set up roots in the area. So,
when you look at other things that happen with growth, and I alluded to this earlier, partnerships that can be formed. You've got District 1 and you've got District 8. And there hasn't always been kumbaya between these two school districts. And yet they started talking. They started sitting down. They started both realizing that there's going to be more butts in the seats when it comes to the school district. Where are we at now? Because that's such a big part of how you're going to sell Williston to any company.
Yeah. Well, you and I have always had these past conversations, and unfortunately, they're always after the day a bond had failed on maybe building a new school, and we talked about how do we go back to the drawing board. My hat's off to the people that have stepped forward and are serving on those boards for District 1 and District 8. They found a way to work together. They have found a way to merge the districts. It looks like the plan is good. It looks like it's been presented to the state of North Dakota, and I believe the last step of where we're at right now, it's going to go to the vote of the people here in December, the first part of December. So each district will vote on reorganizing the district, which I believe would then be called District 7. So kudos to them, because as you well know, when we went through that period, it was a very hot button, very emotional topic to talk about. But from economic development, it affected us huge, because I had a lot of businesses saying, hey, what's going on with your district up there? We want to expand, but families are saying we need to take a look at what's going on with the school districts.
So I only have 1 minute left. If you pulled the pin today and said, all right, I'm done, I'm going to retire, whatever, you're never going to retire, you're a young man. But if you looked at that body of work, what would you be the most proud of?
Well, I think the most proud of I would say just in my career as we go back is probably some of the partnerships that we did form because those partnerships are going to last a long time, and I think they're going to move Williston forward regardless of who sits in this chair. Now, personally, I'll tell you, I am fully vested in the redevelopment of our old airport right now, and I really see that through, and I think that's going to be something that I really want to hang my hat on down the road whenever I decide to hang it up, or if somebody decides to hang it up for me.
That's not going to happen. The biggest problem they have is if somebody goes and steals you. That's the problem they're going to have. Sean, thanks. Thanks for coming on, and say hi to that great staff you have, okay?
That's great seeing you again, Joel.
It just does one heck of a job. When we come back, well, can't miss the opportunity. We're 5 days out, right? 5 days out from people walking in a booth. A lot of people have voted already. A lot of people who are watching this have voted already. But there's still that group that go in and pull that lever and say, you know what? I'm going to vote. I've voted every time in my life, and I'm going to vote this time. And I hope you're one of those. Get out and vote. I don't care how you vote. And I'm going to end every segment this way. But I've got some comments for you. What a shock, right? Let's take a look at this presidential race when we come back.
He once won a spelling bee in an ancient language that he did not speak. He is the only man to ever earn extra credit on an IQ exam. His academic degrees are considered legitimate spending currency in 22 nations, 2 principalities, and at Chick-fil-A restaurants in the United States and Western Canada.
I do not always engage with education programming, but when I do, it is the Dr. Duke Show.
Stay educated with the Dr. Duke Show, weekdays at 4 p.m. on Beck News.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at accordsleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
You're looking for secure private cloud storage, but who can you trust? Big tech companies don't always keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business information away from prying eyes. Your local Beck Lightband Internet Services comes with 50 gigs of Beck Cloud Backup free. Hometown service with top-tier security to keep your data truly safe and private. Get your 50 gigs free today. Call 701-475-2361 and ask about Beck Cloud Backup.
My name is Rich Shook, and I lost my best friend in a grain bin accident.
Some of the emotional scars that when these incidences happen just resonates throughout the community like dropping a rock in a pond. I guess I'll never forget. At least the last moments we shared. That's why I think this is so important to get out there to people, is people think that it can't happen to you, and it can. The time it would take you to just kiss a loved one, and your life is over. I believe it's unacceptable.
This message provided by North Dakota Farmers Union.
You know, I am going to say this a lot, but it's true. It's good going down the road with you. We're 5 days away from a presidential election. 5 days away from probably, no, for sure, the most heated presidential election that we've ever had. Donald Trump has made sure of that. He has been the most controversial president that in my lifetime we've ever had. And he likes it. He feeds off it. And quite frankly, he's good at that. He's good at making sure that he gets the attention. We're about to find out if that's good or bad in terms of whether or not it worked or not with him. He obviously wants to be reelected. By the time, let's take a step back and look at the scenario if he isn't reelected. He'll go out as a one-term president. He'll go out as a president that if he isn't elected, you can almost bet that they'll lose the Senate, that lost the majority in both chamber, and he'll go out as an individual, don't forget this, that was impeached. That's not a great record to hang your hat on. But let's do the other scenario. He wins. If Donald Trump wins, he walks into that next term with power like you wouldn't believe. He can look at all the individuals, myself included, that have challenged his agenda, that have challenged his style. He can look at all of them and say, you know what? The American people spoke, and they just spoke again. So everything's there. It's all on the line. This race has never been about Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Mike Pence. It's been about one individual only, and that is Donald Trump. The people that are going in to vote are voting yes or no on Donald Trump. Sure, they know who Joe Biden is. Sure, they've followed that. But the decision is being based solely on whether or not they want Donald Trump. If you look at the polling and you look at what it shows Joe Biden in the lead. You got to ask yourself whether you believe it or not. And there's reasons to believe or to not believe certain polling. Look at the Wisconsin poll that came out recently. Joe Biden is not ahead by 17 points in Wisconsin. He's not. That poll, you could say BS to that poll. Say whatever you want, but he is not ahead by 17 points in Wisconsin. In fact, I think they put it in reverse and changed it, and the next day they said, we polled again quick, and Biden's ahead by 7. Now, is Biden ahead in some of these states with 50%? Not 50% over, but does he have 50% of the people saying, I'm going to vote for him? If he does, ladies and gentlemen, and if those polls are true, that's a real uphill climb for Donald Trump. Because once your polling gets above 50%, not only is the money going to dry up, but the people are going to think, all right, the ones that you want to vote aren't going to vote. And the ones that, if you're behind, you're going to sit there and say, man, I'm sitting at 46, 45. I'm not going to get them to turn out. And that's what's at risk here. I believe on Election Day, you're going to see a Biden win, and you're going to see the Biden win big enough so that it's not as controversial as what some people think it might be. I won't be with you tomorrow because Beck is going to do what they do best. They're going to bring you playoff games. But I will tell you this, I look forward to being with you on Monday. Good riding with you, folks.